What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 20 of The PlayStation Effect. I'm your host, Marco. Joining me is my good friend and co-host, Pablo, and each week we explore the past, present, and future of PlayStation. And in this episode, we've compiled some of your hottest takes about PlayStation to decide whether you're right, wrong, or clinically insane. Plus, we'll also share our honest thoughts on Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. Is this remake the shot in the arm that Assassin's Creed needed, or is it just a lazy cash grab? Stay tuned to find out. So get settled, get situated, subscribe if you enjoy the show, and let's get rolling, Pablo. And let's actually start right there. Let's talk about Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced because, man, a game that kind of wasn't on my radar. A game that I wasn't too sure I was even going to ever play because my love for Assassin's Creed over the years has waned so significantly. But this one is definitely one of the games in the series that I would say are the most beloved. But ironically, not so much for you in the beginning, right? What was the story with you with the OG Black Flag?
Yeah, I think for me, it was kind of fatigue from the series itself. You got to remember from 2009 to 2015, it was back to back to back to back. This was an annualized series that came out every year. And by the time Assassin's Creed 3 rolled around, I was pretty much tired with the formula. You know, this game did something different, really different, comparatively speaking. But for me, I was at wit's end with the series.
Yeah, they were kind of shitting these out left and right at the time. I do remember that. And yeah, when Black Flag rolled along, it was interesting because it came out right with the launch of the Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah.
So it did have that lift of like, okay, let's see what a next generation Assassin's Creed could be like. But then to your point, it was a pretty big departure, becoming more of like a Pirates game combined with Assassin's Creed, which I think at first for a lot of people, myself included, I was very skeptical. But I ended up falling in love with it a lot. I thought the story was great. I thought that the naval combat was surprisingly competent for what it was. And it was a good time just kind of having that to kind of sprinkle in between the typical Assassin's Creed formula, which to your point at that stage of the game was getting a little too familiar at a certain point. But, you know, this remake comes out, man, and it was not just this typical, let's just kind of up-res it, make it 60 frames per second, call it a day type of thing that we all kind of expected Ubisoft to do, let's be honest, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is from the ground up. And I got to say, man, I'm playing it on PS5 Pro, and holy shit. This game is every bit the built from the ground up remake they said it is, at least visually. I mean, environments look just as good, if not better, than Horizon Forbidden West does.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
I mean, the PSSR enhancements are probably working wonders for this game because
for sure.
I've just been beside myself, just kind of roaming around and just looking at all the different environments that I've seen so far. And I'm just blown away, man. I mean, really, what are your thoughts, though, on just kind of the remake aspect of it? How is it kind of coming together for you so far?
It feels new in that it's bringing all the elements from the newer games onto Black Flag Resynced. Combat systems, brand new as well. I think it's really good. Being so far removed from those types of Assassin's Creed games, I am finding myself to be enjoying the game a little bit more than I was before. My problem is, Marco, is that I didn't really enjoy the naval combat too much. And it wasn't something that I loved to be doing. And about halfway through the game itself, you do a lot of that. So I am not looking forward to that. Hopefully that does change as well, because my opinion of the game has been changing as I played it. So I am not looking forward to that, but I'm hoping that with the new kind of build from the ground up and all that, that also translates to the naval combat, because that was a point of contention for me for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's understandable. I don't know if this game is probably going to do a whole lot more for you in that regard than what the original did. Now, admittedly, where I am in the game so far is pretty early, so I haven't gotten all the way into that just yet. But much like the original, this one wastes no time getting you right into it with that to kind of get a taste of what's to come. I think if you're someone who really enjoyed that in the original, you're probably going to love it here, though, because, I mean, just something about upgrading your own ship, the Jackdaw, and just really kind of enjoying like what it feels like to be in charge of a crew, and you guys are singing shanties together out there in the sea, and it becomes a whole vibe in that kind of way. So if that's something that you liked with the original, I think you're going to love it here. I think if you're the Pablos of the world, maybe it might be more digestible because you kind of know what to expect. You're coming in more prepared now.
That's right. Yep.
But it might not still click with you any better than the original game did. But I think other things around the game are still so good, though, that even if it doesn't check all your boxes from the naval combat standpoint, maybe the exploration can be still fun and things like that.
That's right. Yeah.
So pretty big game, actually.
Yeah. And that's what I'm looking forward to as well. I think really for me, when it comes down to it, it was the fact that the naval combat stuff became a focal point for this game itself. That kind of took away from what I thought was a traditional Assassin's Creed game. But again, that's coming from all those games that I played before. But like I mentioned, being so far removed from all that, it could probably be a moment where I'm playing, I'm like, actually, this is actually really good. I'm actually really enjoying this. So I'm hoping that's where I go with it. But there's so much more to do, man. So I don't think that I'm going to be falling off the game when it gets to that point, because I am having a good time. I like the story. I like Edward Kenway. I like his character. He's a little brash, I like that about him. It kind of feeds into the whole kind of pirate aspect of the entire game. So all that stuff is really coming together really well.
Yeah, and apparently it's selling really well, too. So 2 million sold so far, probably going to inch up to 3. I would imagine Assassin's Creed does tend to do good numbers. I think the thing that I'm most curious about is if this is a success, will they essentially pull a Resident Evil and have new Assassin's Creed, remake of Assassin's Creed, and that kind of cadence? I would love to see that. I think some of those older games can certainly use a built from the ground up type of remake like this is. And I also think, I guess just broader than that, I wonder if this formula is so beloved that it makes them eventually rethink the mainline new entries and shrinking them down a little bit more from the open world stuff that just gets so bloated and so Ubisoft after a while, and maybe trying to focus a little bit more. I mean, they tried to do that with Mirage, but I think that was a weird case of continuing a story that was already established in another game, and it didn't feel like it was its own thing. But I liked the premise of that, and I want to see more of these more focused, smaller, traditional Assassin's Creed kind of experiences.
Looking at Mirage numbers, Mirage was pretty successful in itself, so I thought the series was going to go there. And then Shadows I really enjoyed. However, it didn't sell as well. It's one of the lower selling games of the series. And being that this game is coming out and it's hitting those traditional focal points of the Assassin's Creed series, I don't think that there's a world where Ubisoft goes back to Origins and continue Odyssey, Valhalla, and Shadows, because Valhalla is the best-selling game out of all the series, but that's like the very top of the mountain, and then everything else just seems to be going downhill in terms of what people want from the series itself. And what people want from the series is back to the traditional sort of Assassin's Creed stuff. Or it could just be the nostalgia for Black Flag, and it could be where they remake, whether it be the first one or the Ezio trilogy, and it doesn't do as well, so that could be a thing as well. But I think it's worth exploring a Capcom sort of remake to see how people react to them, and then taking from that and doing what Capcom also did with Resident Evil Requiem, where it takes all of those things and puts them into one game, and it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. So I hope that they're able to figure that out, because the series needed a shot in the arm, and I think that this is definitely that for the series.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and bringing up Shadows is a great point, too, because Shadows definitely came with its share of controversies. Some of those things were deserved. Some of those things were not so much. And really for that game, that was kind of like the push the red button type of experience, right? Okay, everybody wanted Japan. Here's Japan. And I think they definitely just didn't land it the way they should have. So this game, I think, is right on time. This is a great, ironically, it's a great resyncing of Assassin's Creed as a franchise. And I think that it should hopefully, if they stick to this remake cadence, which I think that they need to, it should hopefully bring some people like me who have kind of been very detached from the franchise as someone who used to consider this a top 5 favorite IP of all time for me. I think you can win people like me back if you put more games like this out, because then I have the choice to ignore the new games and just stick to my comfort food, right?
That's right.
So I think it's great flexibility for the IP, and I think that that's what Ubisoft should focus on, especially as their business continues continues to kind of flounder around themselves.
I wouldn't be shocked if they double dipped and actually did a sequel to Black Flag as their next mainline game, you know?
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, I mean, we will continue to chip away at it. We'll probably circle back to this one again, I think, when we talk Game of the Year stuff later this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. It'll be in the conversation.
Better than I thought. Yeah,
for sure.
But we don't just play games here. Sometimes we be reading. So Pablo, Pablo been reading. So Pablo, take it away, man. This is definitely relevant, I think, just in the world of nerddom. So talk to me about what you got going on.
I mean, it's a book series called Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it's been around since 2020, but it's kind of got a resurgence lately. A lot of people reading it now because a new book came out this year. It's 8 books so far in the series. I started with the first book. It's a really stupid premise, but it is written well. It's funny. And it takes all the elements that you love about video games, specifically RPGs, and it puts it in this format, which I think works really well. It's called literary RPG, or lit RPG is what they call these kind of books. And it's exactly anything that you've ever seen in a fantasy-based RPG. They use that here in the book itself, and I think it works really well. I think that the character Carl is really well written, and the world around it is really well realized and well done. But the premise is admittedly pretty stupid from the set, but I do think that it works in its favor because it is tongue-in-cheek, summer blockbuster yarn. It's not there to be like the next great American novel or anything like that. It is definitely a book that if you like to read and you love video games, this is the perfect amalgamation of those things. And I'm loving it so far, man.
Yeah, I've been seeing this one popping up, and I didn't have a clue what the hell this was, to be honest with you. I didn't know if this was just some meme or what. I didn't know it was a whole ass book. So when I did some research on it, I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing. So it sounds like people described it as like a little Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in certain respects.
Absolutely.
Which I really like that a lot. That comparison got me interested. So if I'm ever in a reading mood, I might try this out, see if it's any good.
Yeah, and I hear that the audiobooks are excellent as well. So if you're an audiobook person out there,
reading is hard for me because I'm Mr. Doze Off McGee. I can't read a book without staying conscious. So if it's an audiobook, I can put that on while I'm driving, and I can definitely lock in there.
Yeah, I do both. I have the audiobook and the book. So when I'm just kind of at home, I'm reading the book, and then when I'm in the car, I kind of sync it to that to where I left off, and then that way I'm always constantly reading or hearing the book to get through it because there's 8 books I want to get through. So it definitely works well for me that way.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's how gaming and nerddom is treating us out here. But let's get to the big topic this week. And this one's going to be a bit of a fun one, man, because, look, we have compiled some of the hottest takes that we've seen out there about PlayStation to decide whether some of y'all are right on the money or dead ass wrong. And needless to say, it's not exactly hard to find hot takes out there on the internet about anything relating to video games, but some of these are quite fascinating to say the least. So we are going to begin with talking about some of the hot takes we found about PlayStation as a platform, and then we will round things out with talking through some hot takes we found about PlayStation's first-party games. So let's go ahead and kick things off with the first hot take. And this comes from Jay to Save the Day, who writes, PlayStation has become a pretty joyless brand for me. Astrobot is maybe the one game this generation that even bothered to dabble in classic PlayStation fun. I do enjoy their current run of single-player focused prestige AAA games, but I can't help but really miss when they regularly feel like they're having a great time being in gaming. Yeah. This was an interesting one that I found, and I wanted to kind of run this past you. Does this resonate with you at all? Do you think this is valid?
I mean, it is valid to a certain extent. It depends what you're taking away from PlayStation. If your memory of PlayStation is really ingrained in the mascot platformer and the fun that PlayStation had with that, then I can totally understand where you're coming from. But in my opinion, PlayStation hasn't been this in a very long time. So I can understand wanting to go back to those days, especially now. The feeling that you get with PlayStation is that nobody's having fun. And so going back to that, I could understand where he's coming from. But, it's one of those things. It really depends as to what you take away from PlayStation and what you want from your PlayStation going forward.
Yeah, this sounds like somebody who's been around PlayStation for a minute. Because to say that they're joyless, I think suggests that he is, to your point, kind of coming from that older era where platformers were more of a thing. The Jack and Daxters, the Sly Coopers, the Ratchet and Clanks. You get the drift, and that he's looking for some of that feeling again. And Astrobot's the only one that really does that for him. And to that, I would say that I think he's right. PlayStation really isn't too interested in being happy. They're just interested in being profitable. And sometimes that profitability can come through with a first-party catalog of sorts that some people argue has been more or less the same kind of single-player, over-the-shoulder type of deal. And that is their lane. But I can see how that can wear on people and make the brand feel a bit sterile. You know what I mean?
But I also would like to say is that people are not responding to this era of PlayStation. I love Astrobot, but it didn't sell crazy, And Ratchet and Clank came out for the PlayStation 5 as a launch title. And nobody really talks about that game, though I think that game is a good game. So it's a thing where you might have these feelings and want something to be something that it was, but I don't think we're ever going to get back there again, Marco. I don't think that's where PlayStation is at. If you want the whimsy, you might have to go to Nintendo.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. At all. But let's go ahead and move on to the next hot take about PlayStation as a platform. This comes from Senator Gaines, a little government official out here popping in to say some things. And his take is, Herman Hulst and literally anyone who was involved with Concord and the Bungie acquisition should have been fired immediately. I can't fathom why a capitalist company would hold on to people with such disregard to money thrown away. Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to see people kind of want Herman Hulst's head on a stake, but I think that realistically, it just doesn't work this way. These executives fail, and that's just part of the business sometimes. You make bad acquisitions, you make good ones, you put out good games, you put out bad games. I think because these two examples are so headline worthy, I can see why people would want to jump to the conclusion of everybody's got to go. But realistically, if this was the type of position where you're only as good as your next mistake, then no one would want the job. So they are going to give the Herman Hulst of the world cushion. Whether that's deserved or not is a different story. I don't like him. I'm not saying I'm defending the guy. I think he's been fairly bad for PlayStation, but I don't think you just fire somebody because one game flopped and a bad acquisition happened. That's business,
I would agree with the senator here. If these things happened directly under Herman Hulst, I mean, the acquisition of Bungie was done before Herman Hulst took, that
was Jim Ryan
in lead, and Concord was in development for a long time. So the thing is when you look at a baseball team who's failing and not playing well, the first person to go was the manager, right? And so it makes a lot of sense for the head of the company that is responsible for the abysmal Concord debacle and the Bungie acquisition, which has been, it's been terrible. You would want that head of that organization to that be let go. So I understand where he's coming from. But again, we get to look at the facts. Is the fact that this isn't really on Herman Hulst, even though he has been ineffective as a leader. But this specific thing, I can't really agree with unless all these things happen because of certain choices that Herman Hulst made. Then at that point, if you have a failure under your belt that's the size of Concord and Bungie, and it's your fault, you should be out of the job. Absolutely.
Yeah, it gets a little muddy sometimes because I get when people say that, oh, well, he still picked up the mantle from Jim Ryan and let these things happen on his watch.
Right.
So I could see why people would say, no, he's still culpable. It's just that I think realistically, though, this is where people tend to play armchair analyst too much. And I think people assume they know what the right thing to do is in these type of corporate situations, and they don't. So while I'm not going to sit here and say that Herman Hulst's job is secure, I do think that he's probably on some kind of hot seat at this point for what he's not done super effectively. I don't think that this is a situation where you can just take one bad acquisition and one bad game and then send somebody packing. I don't think it's that simple.
Firing Herman Hulst isn't going to fix anything.
No, not really, because you don't know who you're getting in next and what their next idea is going to be that could be even worse than the last thing. You never know.
And the problems at PlayStation are far beyond Herman Hulst.
True. It is very much systemic, and it's been around long before him, for sure. But let's move on to the next hot take about PlayStation as a platform. This comes from, Takun Hiwatari. I don't even know if I said that right, but okay. How you doing, man? Your take was Sony is 100% right about not losing fans by killing physical discs. Twitter isn't a real place. Physical disc gamers are a vocal minority, and the PS6 is going to be successful even without physical games. People are too ingrained into the ecosystem to switch at this point. What say you, man?
This is one of those sad truths, unfortunately. I think that we could see a drop-off or the beginning to an end, possibly, but there's no way that the PlayStation 6 comes out, and because it doesn't have physical games, it's going to be an utter failure. It's just not going to happen. As for physical disc, I feel like we should always have that option, but that is not going to hurt the platform as a whole, not in such a way where it's going to be a complete failure. So I do think that Iwatara here is right on with this, unfortunately. It's sad to say, but I agree.
Yeah, it's true. And I'll also add that the gaming industry shifts very quickly in a way where what might seem egregious to us now could ultimately be kind of right on time. And you kind of fall right into it and go, oh, wow, I thought I'd kind of be angrier about this now, but yeah, here we are, and it just feels like it makes more sense. And that could be just because we got used to the notion of not having discs anymore. It could just be because at a certain point, the entire industry, beyond just gaming, but also film and TV, are not really as reliant on physical media any longer either.
Yeah.
And so you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can sit here and fight this fight, but realistically, this is bigger than me and my little collection. And the world's just moving in this direction, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm either going to conform, or I'm going to be a retro gamer or something, or stay in the past, which is totally fine.
Yeah,
and very viable. I know people that are going to do that. But I think at a certain point, while I hate this 100%, and we talked about this a lot in the last episode. Yeah, this is one of those sad truths.
The problem is that the whole argument for physical is fractured because people are arguing about the actual discs while other people are arguing about ownership, and nobody can agree there either. So even within that conversation, nobody can agree on what's the actual problem. So because of that, the people who are buying digital, which is a lot, is just going to continue to do that, and it's going to go carry over to the PS6, PS7, so on and so forth. It is what it is at this point.
Sad but true, man. Sad but true. But let's go ahead and shift gears. Let's talk some hot takes about PlayStation's first-party games. And wasn't hard to find some things here, y'all. Y'all are kind of wild. So let's get right into it with the first hot take. This comes from Sakura. And the take is as follows. Naughty Dog's games are boring, and I don't understand the popularity. I tried playing Uncharted 1 and 2. I played The Last of Us, and the gameplay was average at best. These games are linear as hell, and these stories feel like B-tier action movies. The only good things are the production values and set pieces. Right for the jugular, man. So we are definitely in Hot Take City here, man. What do you say about this one?
Yeah, nonsense. Boring is not what I would call Uncharted. There's a lot of things that Uncharted does that I don't like. It's repetitive. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to the gameplay where it doesn't feel great all the time. But boring, I definitely would not use that to describe that or The Last of Us. This is just someone who likes a particular kind of game. I'm going to guess open world games with lots of things to collect and things to do. And this is not that. That's not what Naughty Dog does. And so, I can understand where they might not like these kind of games, but this is all wrong. Boring? No, it's not boring. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know what you would consider exciting if Uncharted doesn't do it for you, man. I mean, those are kind of fly by the seat of your pants kind of experiences, dude, with all the
for sure
action and bombast. I have no problem with people saying that Naughty Dog's games don't do it for them because they are their own type of thing, and that's fine. But to say that these games are boring, I think is just kind of a reach. Stories are told in different ways, and The Last of Us definitely has its own way of telling its story, which, again, isn't for everybody, but calling it boring, I think, just kind of dismisses a lot of the nuance, a lot of the great writing, a lot of the great characters, pacing. That stuff is not easy to put together. So I'm just not sure if it's not The Last of Us and Uncharted 2, then what is it? What would be I would love to ask this person, what is the game that you think is the antithesis of this in the best way, because I just don't know what the taste is if these games don't do it for you. And I'm not a big Uncharted guy either, for the record, but I've never accused that game of being boring.
And I hate when people use linear as some sort of, bad
detriment.
thing.
Yeah,
it's
like,
not.
what are we doing?
There's open world and there's linear games. That's what games are.
Yeah, I don't like when people still kind of bastardize linear games as being like lazy or boring or anything like that, because it all depends on what the vision of the game is, and sometimes a game shouldn't be open world. There's a lot of games that I'm like, thank God this wasn't open world. Thank God they didn't pad this out. Like they kept the game focused. Like, I love games that just know how to stay in the right lane. You know what I mean?
There are games that are open world that shouldn't be open world. Neo 3.
Oh, my God. So many. Yeah, that's a good example. And just many others where I'm like, you didn't need to do all this. So I'm afraid this one is officially crazy. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the next hot take about PlayStation's first-party games, and let's talk Horizon, because Cynthian Dracon, I don't know if I'm saying that right, it sounds like a French wine, they say the following: Horizon games get unfairly dismissed because of constant comparisons to other franchises. They may not be the most original games, but they have solid stories, excellent gameplay, and some of the best open-world design in the genre, doing the Ubisoft-style formula better than Ubisoft. They don't reinvent gaming, but these games are genuinely well-made, and I feel like their strengths often get overlooked. What do you feel about this take, man? Is Horizon unfairly dismissed, in your opinion?
No. I mean, I think people who love it, and people who don't. I don't really see how there are people who are kind of not playing the game or dismissing the game for certain aspects and maybe discovering their next favorite game. I don't see any of these things as being a negative towards the game. Like, the Ubisoft-style formula better than Ubisoft? Yeah, but I mean, that's not hard to do. I mean, most people do better than Ubisoft anyway. I get this guy is a fan of the series and wants more people to love it, but it's not for everybody.
I mean, I like Horizon 1 and 2. I really do. But I would never accuse that open world of being better than what I've seen elsewhere.
Here's the thing, Marco. The problem with Horizon is that the story is average. The gameplay is average. It's all like below the line of greatness, but as a whole, it's really good. And visually, it is next level, right?
Yeah.
That's the one thing that carries it above everybody else. That game is gorgeous, absolutely beautiful to look at. But everything else it just feels average to me, and so it's never really excels in one thing other than the visuals. And I think that's where I stand with the series itself.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think of it higher than that in terms of quality. Narratively, I don't think it's like elite, but I think it was good. I enjoyed kind of seeing what they did with the way that they handled sci-fi differently. And I do think that too much hate gets thrown onto Aloy for being breathy and abrasive and cold and wanting to be alone. Like, that's kind of who she is as a character. And I played characters like that many times over. And I don't see why she became so problematic to people when the anti-hero or the anti-social hero has been a part of gaming for decades and decades and decades. Yeah. So it's just strange that she gets picked out of the pack in that way. So I think that's what maybe is unfair, is maybe just kind of the way that she gets dunked on so often. And also, again, Herman Hulst. It's a Herman Hulst thing. He loves him some Horizon, so you're going to get your Lego adventures, you're going to get your live service game. That makes Horizon kind of lose its equity a little bit.
A little,
but but this person's talking about the mainline games, and I think to his point, there are some things that I think do get unfairly dismissed, but the game is also kind of just an open world action adventure game at the end of the day too.
That's right.
And I think that doesn't make it sparkle any brighter than what else we see out there in that genre. So,
but also there's room for that. There's room for that in video games.
Of course. Let's move on to the next hot take, and this comes from Hate Bit Noise, who says the Spider-Man games are just okay when compared to other PlayStation exclusives. The stories and traversal are great, but combat in all three is underwhelming, and it also needs more activities and replayability. They're fun to play once, and then you put them down. I've seen this take before, and I want to get your take on this take to see if you are aligned with this as well. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm not aligned with this at all. I mean, the story and traversal is great. That's literally like 80% of the game, right? I think combat is really good in at least two of them. I wasn't a huge fan in Spider-Man 2. However, more activities and replayability, what are you talking about? It's a collectathon out there. I replayed all those games well after I did roll credits because I wanted to collect the backpacks or whatever else to kind of get the platinum on that. So the last part of this is insane, but you're telling on yourself here. Story and traversal is great. Not good, great. I don't get the hate. I understand Spider-Man has seen some diminishing returns from the first one to Miles Morales to 2, but to say that it's just okay, I don't agree with that. It's a little bit better than just okay for me.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of with you on this too. Replayability is the head scratcher for me because what more do you want a single-player game to do for you at the end of the day? Every game is not trying to be Crimson Desert, where it's just everything the game, you know? Yeah. It's not trying to be that. And games have beginnings, middles, and ends, and that's okay. So I don't really understand what he would want to see, and that he's kind of actively wanting padding to make this game unnecessarily bloated.
And it has padding already, so...
And it does, and people have argued that many times over. Why am I doing puzzle solving in a Spider-Man game? That's why they let you skip it. Like, why do I have to collect it? You don't have to do it after the first time they introduce it to you. So, like, they let you see it, and then they give you the option of either sticking to it and finishing the collectathon or whatever it is, or just moving on.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose that flexibility at all.
No, not at all.
So, I don't understand this at all. And to your point, getting a good Spider-Man story is not easy to do because people have seen it all. They've seen the origin story a million times. So what can you do that really wows them? I think they've done, for the most part, a really solid job. And traversal is great. Yeah, that's a big deal, man.
That's
like,
huge.
If you don't get Spider-Man's traversal right, it ruins everything.
You don't got a game, yeah.
Yeah, so the fact that Insomniac actually nailed that, and it's one of the most fun things to do in that game. You don't just say, yeah, it does everything great, but it just needs more fluff. I don't know. What are we talking about? So
I agree.
Homeboy's out to lunch, man. Next hot take comes from Old Wet Hole.
Okay, I don't want to hear this guy at all. I don't want to hear
which guy, don't discriminate age, man. Some of them holes is still juicy.
No way.
I don't know, man.
That's crazy.
Let's talk about it, though. Old Wet Hole writes, am I crazy for thinking Ghost of Yotei is a straight-up masterpiece? The internet's reception was mixed, so I went in with moderate expectations. But the combat, the art style, the exploration, the music, enemy variety, and jaw-dropping map, damn. Maybe I'll sound a little overzealous, but I genuinely cannot think of anything more I'd want out of an open-world game. What say you, man? Do you see masterpiece?
No, I don't see a masterpiece. However, the man said that he saw mixed reviews online and went into it with those moderate expectations, and then he got that game. Yeah, I understand why he would think that it's a masterpiece, because if someone told you that game was mid and then you played it, you're like, that game is not mid. It is a fantastic fucking game. But masterpiece, you know, it's hard to throw that around. And masterpiece, this game is not. It falls short of that by quite a few, but it's not completely out of view of a masterpiece. You know, what's to say that the next one can figure it out and be a masterpiece? But I think this game is excellent, but masterpiece, no.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think masterpiece it's one of those beauties in the eye of the beholder type of things where if you love a certain genre and you get that perfect quintessential game within that genre, it can be your own personal masterpiece. I think there's very few objective masterpieces in the world of gaming. So if that's what this person feels, then that's awesome. I mean, I thought that the reception towards this game was not only mixed, but very unfair. It was very much like, oh, I wanted to play as Jin Sakai. I'm mad. And I'm like, all right, well, let's give franchises the opportunity to evolve.
Yeah.
Maybe. I really liked Atsu a lot, by the way. I thought she was great. I thought she was going to be so one note and uninteresting, and she was just going to be on this revenge tour, and that was it. But she showed so much dimension and personality and humor. I was really blown away by that as well. I think everything that this guy mentioned was right on the money. The combat's good, the art style's good, the exploration was pretty fun, the music was really good, the enemy variety was enjoyable, the map was interesting. I don't disagree with any of this. I just think it's a great open world game, but masterpiece, maybe that is how Mr. Old Wet Hole feels about it, but not necessarily me. But whatever gets him wet, man. Whatever keeps him moist in the loins is all right with me. How you doing? Let's move on here to the next hot take. And that comes from Minion8500, who says, I don't get why Helldivers 2 took off. I think it's overrated. Run around a bland, procedurally generated map, do some boring-ass missions, shoot uninspired-looking enemies, and extract. Plus, the humor wears out its welcome fast. I just don't get it. Pablo, do you get it?
Yeah, you had to be there, I guess, because that game, for what it is, I think really took off because people really enjoyed the playing with friends and having that kind of Starship Troopers sort of moment where you're trying to extract all those enemies are coming at you, you're shooting. We played it. We had some fun. I could definitely see why this game took off. Now, with the same kind of reasoning, I could see why it kind of fell off a cliff because all the reasons he mentioned are true as well, but I definitely get why it took off, and I understand why it kind of fell off a cliff in terms of like sustainability. People are not playing that game like they used to.
I'm going to be very honest. I kind of agree with this one wholeheartedly. Now, again, I had my fun with Helldivers. I did. Pablo's right. We did play it. I played with some other friends of mine. Good times. Solid game. Fun. For it to take over the way that it did and to become the talk of the town and the next big thing and everything was Helldivers, that was kind of what surprised me because I just didn't see... I guess I didn't see the addictive quality to it that everybody else did. Yeah. I went in there and I'm like, oh, cool. We drop in, we do some things, have some fun, some laughs, and we leave. But for some people, it was like catnip, and I just didn't understand it. I do think that the procedurally generated map was underwhelming to just kind of drop into. It didn't feel like you were anywhere distinct. So when you did go to a new planet and you drop in, you're like, all right, what's this place all about? And it's just kind of nothing. It's like, oh, okay, well, all right, no, okay, well, what's the missions we're going to do? Oh, the same ones that just kind of don't really stick with you at all or mean anything significant. You're just kind of going in and doing a little quick time event with your directional pad, and that's it. And it's like, all right, well, that's cool, I guess. And then you leave, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what I was supposed to kind of glean from that made me go, okay, I have to play this all night long. So to me, it was fun, but I think it kind of ran its course a lot quicker with me than it clearly did with other people. But to your point now, it's definitely not where it used to be. And such is life with live service games, that happens. But I do think eventually what it is and its limitations maybe did catch up with it a little bit. So
I just think that the technical aspects of the game, they really are like second to the actual why people loved it. And it was a place where everybody met and they played. It was a community type affair, and I think that's really what drove the game for so long. But technically, if you want to break it down that way, I could definitely see all those points. But it was just a place where people were going, meeting, having a good time, and really enjoyed it for what it was. But yeah, there's definitely some truth to that take.
Yeah, and it reminds me a lot of what ultimately happened with Arc Raiders too. Like it just became this sensation, and everyone was talking about it. But then nature takes its course, and then it's just kind of done. And I think that's what's happened here with Helldivers too. But still going to kind of kick around for years to come, I'm sure. And it definitely was successful enough for PlayStation to still have the live service bug, unfortunately. So we're probably in for more experiments like this one to come. But in the meantime, let's move on to our final hot take about PlayStation's first-party games, and this comes from Donut Man 1834, who writes, "Am I the only one who likes Atreus as a character? In the first God of War, he was alright, but in the second game, he made me love his character. The writers actually did a good job of writing a teenager well in such a non-realistic setting like God of War. He's immature, he makes mistakes, and he strives for independence. He's a pretty well-written depiction of a teenager, in my opinion." All right. Now, this one might have made some people dry heave a little bit, but hot take nonetheless, because a lot of people don't like Atreus. Yep. But Pablo, weigh in, man. Does he have a point? Is it valid?
Pen to paper, when you look at the character and how he was written and all the things that he does in the game, he's 100% correct. The problem with Atreus has never been how he's depicted or how he's written. He's a well-realized character. He's excellent in terms of a teenager in this world and how he changes through both those games. I agree with all that. The problem is in gameplay. He's annoying as shit. It's an annoying character who's always pointing out the obvious, and it's a mechanic issue, not a written issue with Atreus.
I think this man's on that heroin. And I hate to be so cliche because like the popular thing to do is to say Atreus sucks, and I get it. But when I looked at Atreus in God of War 2018, I felt like the relationship with him and Kratos felt like a poor man's Joel and Ellie, in that you have this sort of problematic child who kind of doesn't really understand their full potential yet. And then you have kind of like the disdainful, kind of cynical, quiet, off in the corner, the sad dad archetype, which to me just wasn't handled as neatly as The Last of Us was. So I couldn't help at the time but to make that comparison in my head and go, okay, this isn't as good as what I just saw with The Last of Us series. God of War Ragnarok, though, was where all hope was lost, in my opinion, for this character. I just couldn't tolerate the way that the nonstop arguing between him and Kratos, you're my son, let me go, but you're my son. And it was so annoying to see that in the second game, they didn't really get too far from where they were in the first. It was just an older, more vocal Atreus, but it was still the same kind of rebellious story arc that didn't go anywhere. And then when you played as him, I felt like, oh my God, I don't think there's ever going to be a way they can pass the torch to Atreus when they eventually do move away from Kratos, because playing as this kid is just not fun. It's just bows and arrows and flippy spin moves, and they tried to sauce it up a little bit in ways that just didn't work for me. So I just felt like at a certain point, Atreus became a hindrance, and I just felt like, okay, they're going to have to figure out something, because they didn't manage to make this character loved in a way that would have been a great torch passing moment, in the same way that Joel kind of passed the torch to Ellie in that same sense. So I do agree. I just don't think it's working out. I don't think it's working out.
I agree with you in that it's not as good as Joel and Ellie, and I do, Ragnarok, I think he was written well. It's just within context of the story and everything else. I think that game is far messier, has bigger problems than Atreus, Ragnarok itself.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I think that there's truth to this take, though, when you compare it to other stuff and within context, it doesn't hold that much water.
Yeah, that is true. But that is going to do it for us, finding all your hot takes out there and talking about them right here on this show. Maybe one day we'll do an episode of our own where we have our own personal PlayStation hot takes that you can kind of roast us for it if you want. What do you mean you don't want it?
I don't want to be canceled by the internet.
Oh no, is that bad?
No.
You got some. You probably got a couple of bad ones in the chamber. I know if y'all follow Pablo on social media, this man has opinions.
I do.
He hits those replies hard. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's got some fire. But that is going to do it for us this week. Look, if you enjoyed this episode of The PlayStation Effect, the best way you can show us some love is to follow the show. Subscribe wherever you happen to be listening to us before you head out. But until next time, thanks for listening. Stay safe, save often, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Rest in peace, Sam Neill.
Oh, man. Sad story, man. Rest in peace.